This Army-Navy game betting special picks edition of the NASCAR Gambling Podcast here on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network is brought to you by Bet Rivers. Claim your risk-free bet up to $500 over at sportsgamblingpodcast.com/BetRivers. That's sportsgamblingpodcast.com/BetRivers. We're also brought to you by Gametime. Gametime tickets make the perfect holiday gift. Download the Gametime app today and use promo code CFBX for $20 off of your first purchase. We're also brought to you by Hall of Fame Bets, betting research platform for parlays, player props, and game lines. Download the Hall of Fame Bets app or visit hofbets.com and use code SGPN to get 50% off of your first month and start making smarter bets.
Driver, start your engine!
Strap in and pull those belts up tight as the Sports Gambling Podcast Network presents the NASCAR Gambling Podcast.
I'll wreck my mom to win a championship. I'll wreck your mom to win a championship.
With all the news and the best bets for your NASCAR weekend.
It refrains me from not beating the out of you right now because you asked me stupid questions. But since I'm on probation, I suppose that's improper to say as well. If you could talk about racing things, we could talk about racing things.
Now, here are your hosts, Rod Villagomez and Cody Zeeb.
Oh, yes, indeed. Hall of Fame Bets. Yes, you are still there. Welcome in, everybody, to the NASCAR Gambling Podcast here on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. It may look a little differently for you guys watching on YouTube, and for those of you listening on the podcast proper, it is, of course, the NASCAR Gambling Podcast, but as you and I both know, and everybody knows, that Cody and I come from the branches of service that will be taking in the field this weekend in the time-honored tradition Army-Navy game. It is a wonderful tradition each and every year. Obviously, we know that Cody was in the Navy. I am currently still in the Army. Cody, I did notice, though, and I'm going to take a little bit of exception with how you put this in the doc. This has Navy-Army game, and I'm going to have to say that that's not how it's pronounced.
Well, you know, you gotta have the best first, as Stephen Williams says in the YouTube chat. Go Navy! Couldn't agree more with you, Stephen. Go Navy.
I mean, listen, honestly, it's such a fun rivalry. And I mean, we're going to get into some betting picks, but obviously this is a time too for us to kind of look back on the meaning of this. I know this is NASCAR. I know that we talk about cars that go fast, and you probably don't want to hear about Army-Navy college football game on this.
Who doesn't want to hear about that, Rod?
But I was about to say, but that's okay because we'll have another episode for you tomorrow that will deal with plenty of NASCAR. But let's have some fun in the offseason. Let's step aside from the racing and let's get into this Army-Navy game because it means a lot to Cody and it means a lot to me just from the simple standpoint of you sort of identify with the service. And maybe you don't, maybe you never did go to West Point. Maybe you've never been a midshipman. Maybe you've never been to Annapolis, but that doesn't matter. Like for that brief moment in time, they are wearing your colors and you're proud to be part of that service. And I think that extends to just about everybody that watches this game. You see it steeped in tradition. You see the pomp and circumstance that goes into it. And again, like I said, I never really appreciated the rivalry much when I was in the military. It took me getting out to sort of feel it.
You're still in.
Well, but I mean, now I am again. But I mean, I started and I carried that tradition in. Yeah, the first time around, I didn't really appreciate it, but now I really do. And I found myself actually enjoying watching Army football a lot more. So I like that. And Steven says, yes, they all wear red, white, and blue because once they're done, they get commissioned and they're officers in their service.
Yeah, and that's what's so great about that. This game is, you know, it's fun. The Go Navy, the Go Army. We're on different teams, but we're all on the same team, right? And it's everybody on that field is willing to die for you and for your freedom, and they're going to go on and serve together in the military. And the branches of the military work closely together. I worked with Army and the Marines and the Air Force and everybody else while we were in, all over the world and everything. And so we're all one team later, but it's fun to have the good rivalry here and get to take it out on the field. And yeah, it's always a good time. I love how the game is kind of standalone, right? It's just Army Navy this weekend. That's the awesome part. So let's see. Steven says been to 3 games, pretty epic environment. I haven't been to one of the games, but that's definitely a Rod and Cody trip down the line, because that would be a lot of fun. Steven was a combat correspondent, photographed them. Thank you for your service, Steven. We appreciate it. Thanks for joining us live here on YouTube too as well. We appreciate it. But yeah, oh man, just it's so much fun, this game. It's always like such an old school fun game too, and lots of running, not much passing usually. Semper, Steven says, Marine, obviously. Hoorah, or hoorah, I don't know.
Hoorah. Oh my God.
Jeez, sorry.
Come on, sailor.
Same difference. he was basically in the Navy. It's fine.
And that's,
the Marines play for the Navy, so
they do. That's true. And that's it. Because if you're looking for a Marine Corps game, you're never going to find it, because all of them play.
That was like the smartest thing the Navy could ever do, was just make the Marines part of them and put them on the football team.
It's like, hey, go get the toughest guy over there. Ashley.
Ashley
Navy.
Says go Navy. All right. Yeah. We got plenty of Navy people here in the comments. I like it. Love it. The men's department, Steven says.
No, but listen. So the thing of it is, and I've actually got some backup. I called in for backup. I called for reinforcements, and we'll bring him in a second. But I do want to say that when you think about it, when you frame this Army Navy game, we're going to talk a little bit about some philosophy changes and some of the. I know you talked about smash mouth, hard nosed football that goes on, and there is a lot of that. But this year's going to look a little different. And it's also going to look a little different because it's not in Philadelphia this season. They are not playing it in Philadelphia. It's a definite change of venue. And I mean, honestly, so they did play it in not Annapolis. They played it at West Point a couple seasons ago during the
COVID year. Yep.
Yeah. But then they moved it back to Philadelphia. And this year, it is going to be. All of these comments are escaping me. Do you remember exactly where it's going to be on?
It's going to be in Foxborough at the Patriots Stadium.
That's right. It's going to be in Foxborough.
Yeah, and it's like a 5-year rotation now, so it'll be like, I think it's Foxborough. They're going to DC. I think Philly's on there, but it's like it'll rotate throughout the years. And
I'm sorry, I'm laughing at all these comments. I love it. If you know we were live, Nick says, "Go Army." Sorry, Cody.
Boo.
But Steven, this cracks me up. I found chocolate crayons here in Memphis and ate them November 10th.
That's the proper way to do it for the Marines. Proud of you, Steven.
I love that we've fully embraced the crayons. But all right, listen. I want to do this because I want to start getting into all the stuff that we've got to get into, because again, we've got a lot of fun. We've got a guest here that's going to join us to talk about another. Like I said, I needed to call backup. I had to. If we have any Navy folks that want to join us, message us and we'll drop the link and maybe we'll get you in there. But let's talk first about. No, that's crickets. How about this? See, this is what happens when you get too distracted. Oh, that's this Cody. This. Let's talk about Bet Rivers. We're brought to you today by Bet Rivers. My pad is it's all over the place. We're brought to you by Bet Rivers. Bet Rivers is available in over 14 states plus Ontario, Canada. Bet Rivers has some of the best live betting markets in the space. Their betting menu is second to none, including a ton of props. Depositing and withdrawing is super easy on Bet Rivers. Plus, it's the best space in live betting. Their betting menu is second to none, and make sure you take care of that. Sign up using our link to get a risk-free bet up to $500. Stay tuned, too, because a lot of the pictures we're giving you are up there on Bet Rivers as well. Just go to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/BetRivers. That's sportsgamblingpodcast.com/BetRivers. Problem gambling? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. All right. Live back on screen here. We have our very own SGPN football doc, Sebastian Fearon. Sebastian, buddy, we did some shows together on the Fantasy Football Show. We talked a lot about your journey into the Army, and you're in now, so it's exciting to have you on, sir.
Yeah, yeah. How you guys doing, gentlemen? Yeah, I know this is how you can tell I'm green, right? I was looking around, and all the Army stuff I have is pretty much the issued stuff. So I saved that and said, I got my nice little classic Beaver fit stuff on, and got my flag hanging in the back. But gentlemen, y'all are looking good. It's good to say. I will say one's looking better than the other. I won't say who.
That's me. I
But,
know it's okay.
we'll leave that one up. But pleasure as always, Rod, being with you again, and Cody. Pleasure, my brother.
Yeah, thanks for joining us. We appreciate it.
Hey man, anytime we can talk real football, I'm game.
That's right.
Amen. Cody's little Cracker Jack hat. I'm telling you.
That's right. It's beautiful.
If you're not watching YouTube, this is the video you need to watch.
I brought the blue digi camo too. So I don't know if the chat wants to vote for what they want to see me in, I can wear either one. But
and I'll tell you, honestly, I felt sketchy a lot of times wearing the Army shirt, because when I go out to work, I'm wearing this out before I change my uniform. So if I'm doing like a podcast or some other show, I'm always like, do I really want to represent is this really how I want to represent the Army? But today, all bets are off. I don't care. We're talking Army, Navy.
Oh yeah,
I'm on it. Like, I don't care at this point. We are going all in on this. Justin says, I'm just here to support the vets, but refuse to pick sides. Spoken like
okay. All right. Welcome, old fashioned football. Thank you. What you got to tell us who you're betting on, though, at least. Come on, you got to pick a side when it comes to betting, Justin. Don't be Switzerland in this.
You're outnumbered 2-1, so please pick wisely. Okay, so let's just set this game up just a little bit, okay? Like we said, it is in neutral territory. They don't play it on either field. They play it now in Foxborough. But really just looking at these teams in general, right? I mean, Navy obviously is coming in, and they've usually been the better team. They play the better teams out of it, where Army's schedule is usually a little bit soft.
Like 8 FCS teams.
But they do play teams like LSU this year, which they got stomped, but they will step out of their comfort zone a little bit and play some of the bigger teams as well. But this year, one of the biggest differences for Army football, it is no longer the triple option. It is the gun option, which has brought an entirely new wrinkle to this offense. It has brought excitement, it has brought terror, and it has brought, it's not your grandfather's triple option anymore. This is a offense that was not afraid to throw the ball. They brought in a quarterback who can throw the ball. So what does this do for you? I don't know. I mean, it feels like to me, as we usher in this new era of Army football, we can't necessarily say, well, this is how it happened last time, because it's not the same.
Yeah, it's definitely different, which is going to be interesting to see how that works. Because it's kind of always been where both teams just run the triple option. It's the same on both sides, but mixing it up is going to be interesting. What are your thoughts on the new style of Army football, Doc?
Yeah, so it's funny you say that, because as I was going through things, like, yes, it does look different, but when we look at the numbers, these are two teams that are very similar, right? We were talking about Navy 200 rush yards a game, 100 pass yards. Army 209 rush yards a game, 119 pass yards. So it's one of those things where it may look different, but I think these guys, they're a little bit of carbon copies of each other. Which is, what we've seen in the past, and that's why the unders usually kind of tend to hit. However, I will say, as Rob was pointing out, the new wrinkle for me is Bryson Daly. I think that guy is a gamer, and I'm sure we'll talk about him a little bit here. But, I know we saw Steven calling out that 62-0 shellacking from LSU. So that 3-game stretch there where Army was really taking it on the chin, all 3 of those games, Daly was out. So I think that's something to note here. He's came back, and that team's looked a lot better, definitely on the offensive side of the ball. So just yes, with the crooks of the NCAA taking away our real triple option there with the cut blocking, I think Bryson Daly gives them a little bit of a spark that they didn't have in the past couple of years.
Yeah, it's been, like I said, as somebody who's watched Army over the last several years, I do enjoy this new take on this offense. And like you said, though, it looks different, but it runs a lot the same, because they're still trying to run their B-backs. They're still trying to run the quarterback, right? They still need Bryson Daly to run. Yes, he can pull up and throw, but he hasn't done it nearly as much as I think they wanted him to. And that very first game of the season, you could tell that something special was happening. One, even though it didn't end the way they wanted it to, I think all of the learning that and then they brought it to the next game and ended up looking night and day. So it just, a philosophy change isn't going to happen overnight. I, for one, am excited to see what next season brings. I mean, maybe you don't lose 62-0 to LSU, but I've definitely been encouraged by that. And hey, listen, we are halfway there to the Commander-in-Chief's trophy. We already beat Air Force, so all we need to do now is take care of business on Saturday, and that bad boy's coming home with us, and we don't have to worry about any sort of split.
That's the only bad thing if Navy wins is Air Force gets to keep the trophy.
They get to keep the trophy, but it's a three-way split.
But
like
it is a
yeah.
three-way split at that point, which whatever.
Yeah, nobody likes a tie. This is America. we don't want that, but we'll see how it ends up on the field.
Speaking of Air Force,
says, what branch of the military is the wimpy one? Do we just
it depends if you classify the Coast Guard in there, because then yes, them, but I think they're kind of under the Navy. So yeah. But the Air Force, although the Air Force is the smart ones, they get all the luxury, and if you're smart, you join the Air Force, and then here we are.
yeah, right. If you're smart, but you're also a wimp, so it's a balance, right?
It's a balance, right? And Steven says the Space Force, which is also accurate.
I mean,
Murr also said that she likes the hat on the headphones look. I believe that's an endorsement for Go Navy from the Old Fashioned Football. So we'll roll with that.
So listen, to put it in context, just for a small little aside from this one. So I was stationed at Fort Bliss, Texas, a long time ago. And I was in the barracks as a single soldier, young guy in the barracks. And I'm eating in the chow hall one day, and we're eating alongside a couple of folks, and an Air Force guy is there. And so we're striking up conversation, and he goes, so where do you guys live? And we're like, we live in the barracks over there. He goes, yeah, me too. He's like, how much does the Army pay you to live in those barracks? And we looked at him. We were like, pay us to live in these barracks?
They let us live in these barracks. What are you talking about?
I said, nothing. Like, that's where we live. He goes, oh, well, the Air Force gives me $350. And this is like back in early 1990s. He's like, the Air Force gives me $350 to live in the barracks, substandard.
Not up to Air Force specs.
He said, lunch is on you then, right? Give me your lunch money.
Yeah, they get the nice stuff in the Air Force, so props to them.
That's pretty incredible. You should have told them we get asbestos in good times, right?
Hey.
Yes, Alyssa, go Navy. More Navy reinforcement.
Alyssa, I thought we were friends. Come on. So anyways, like I said, in setting this game up, you can lean on precedent a little bit when you talk about the betting lines, but really all in all, this is sort of you have to take what they've done this season, especially, into context. And both of these teams, they, like we said, we played completely different schedules. The Army now getting ready to be in an actual conference coming up soon, right? They're gearing up to be part of a conference, which, as you know, they've been independents for years and years and years and years. So can't necessarily say that they're not getting ready for that either. Alyssa, your uncle played for that. I remember, but still. And my uncle's in the Navy, was in the Navy. So hats off to him.
At least there's some smart in your family there.
Yeah, well, I made the right decision. Actually, I love his job, though. His job, he was he did the paperwork for helicopters over there in San Diego. But that dude was always up in helicopters. So, which I followed him up, and I went air assault. So yeah, definitely a lot of fun to be had there. What say we step away real quick, take a break, and when we come back, we'll start talking some odds. We'll start talking about this game, giving our picks before we start talking about our service, which is how we'll pretty much end this whole thing. So, does that sound good, gentlemen?
Sounds good to me.
Yes, sir.
Perfect. Well, then let's tell you about Gametime. Can't stand buying tickets. I hate them. I hate it. It's a terrible experience. Well, at least it was. Now Gametime is giving the opportunity to take all the stress of buying tickets away, especially because, look, my schedule is all over the place. I got kids to take every place. I've got my own stuff to do. I've got shows to do for you guys as well. So I don't even know sometimes if I'm going to be able to see my favorite concert, my favorite comedy event, my favorite roller derby. I was in line the other day and somebody said something about roller derby, and I was like, I want to find that. But anyways, I can't find all those tickets. So what I do now is I go to Gametime. Gametime is giving me the opportunity to take all the stress away for buying tickets. I get great last-minute deals on all these last-minute tickets. Plus, I get the Gametime guarantee that they're going to be on time and authentic when I get my tickets. I got lower fees. I got better prices. And what's the big kicker is that it's made for mobile, so I don't got to figure out which email address to give them. Literally have the app. It's right there for when I open it up. I'm not fishing through emails. I'm not trying to figure out where anything is. It's all at my fingertips. So you too should be able to do this, and you should do this. Snag the tickets without the stress with Gametime. Gametime makes the perfect holiday gift out there. So wink, wink, nudge, nudge. If you're looking for something to give somebody, give them the gift of no stress ticket buying. Download the Gametime app, create an account, use code CFBX for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply again. Create an account, redeem code CFBX for $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Win bigger by betting smarter this NFL season with Hall of Fame Bets, the sports betting analytics platform for parlays, player props, and game lines. Research every NFL, NBA, and soccer bet with historical stats and data. Enter any parlay idea into Hall of Fame Bet's revolutionary parlay optimizer tool. You're going to get hit rates broken down by leg as well as expected probability for the entire parlay. Sort all players by hit rate for any bet to learn which players are hot and which picks have value. Stop betting in the dark. Join over 30,000 users researching with Hall of Fame Bets to craft more intelligent, data-driven parlays. Download the Hall of Fame Bets app or visit hofbets.com. Use code SGPN to get 50% off of your first month today. Start researching, start winning with Hall of Fame Bets. All right, let's take a look at the game lines for this game. No surprise here. It is the Army who is a 3.5, 3-point favorites from where I'm seeing it right now on on our friends at Bet Rivers. So 3-point favorites. Army is favored -108 to Navy at -113 for the I'm sorry, Navy. What? No, yeah, Army's favorite. Jesus Christ, Rod. Read odds. So yeah, Army's a small favorite on this one. I honestly, again, I think it's so tough in these Army Navy games because we've seen them in the past settled by a field goal, settled by even less than a field goal at some point. So really only 15-0 a couple of years ago when the Army stomped Navy to win. That was probably the biggest spread over the last 3 years.
Yeah, you forgot about the 37-7 score the year before that, but that's okay.
I don't know. That year never happened. What was that? Was it 2019?
Yeah, it was 2019.
That was pre-COVID. We can't count anything.
Yeah, you can't blame us for taking it easy on COVID year.
I love it. But, so yeah, I mean, honestly, like I said, I know Army's the favorite, but again, this is going to be a real tight game between these two. So, Sebastian, I want to go to you because I know that you are our resident doc, which means injuries. And listen, the way these guys play football, there's always injuries out there. So, are there any injuries in this game that we should be aware of as we head into this?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there's actually some decent sized ones on either side of the ball, right? And for those, I know we'll probably be talking totals, but I will say it's all on the offensive side of the ball for both teams. So we'll see what that means for the under there. But for the Black Knights, you got their leading wide receiver in Isaiah Austin. He's expected to be out with an ankle injury. They kind of monkey and said that unless there's a miracle, he's going to be out. So he's been out for the past couple weeks since early November. Tells me it's probably a high ankle sprain there. So yeah, he's expected to be out. He's still the team's leading wide receiver, and he's missed the past several weeks. So that probably tells you something there. And then their RB1 in Kanye Udo. He's missed last game. He's questionable. He's kind of undisclosed, right? So college football, much less like the NFL, it's a lot more like a crapshoot. You're kind of just shitting in the wind there. So yeah, but it's kind of 50-50 at that point. They don't even say what body part's injured or anything like that. So, two big guys on that offense. One's definitely out. One's questionable. For the Navy side of the ball, biggest thing I noticed was you've got our line there, quarterback. So one of the biggest things I noticed is, the classic saying, if you have two quarterbacks, you have none. Well, Navy has three that they use. So I don't know what that says about them. But you got our line. He's their best rushing quarterback. He left last game with an ankle injury. Expected to be mild, so he's expected to be out there. He's probable. You got Levitai. He is their passing threat. He missed the last 4 games with an undisclosed injury. He's questionable, but he was listed as a co-starter with other quarterback Braxton Woodson. him and Lavatai were co-starters, so that tells me he's probably got a shot. And then they got really 4 wide receivers. They're kind of top 4, but I say that lightly because they all have under 100 receiving yards on the year.
That's a lot for the Navy.
Yeah, they all are questionable. So, there's a bunch of kind of rotational guys there, really just blockers out in the side. But so, yeah, some injuries on both sides of the ball. You got some banged up quarterbacks there with Navy, and then you got, 2 of Army's best, pass catcher and their running back that are at least questionable, if not out. So that pretty much wraps it up on the injury sides. Again, all offensive and some pretty significant ones, I think.
I've been out of the military for about 10 years now, so it might have changed, but I believe the way to fix all these injuries is take some ibuprofen and suck it up. Is that still how it works? Or
yeah, if you're cool, I'll prescribe you some whiskey. But other than that,
but listen, Doc,
and drive on.
Why crutches? Why does it? I mean, if I hurt my finger, why are you giving me crutches? Like, that's what I want to know. I've always wondered why you go to sick call and all you get is ibuprofen
and crutches. That's just a standard issue.
I will say we're trying to get better, but we'll see. Honestly, I've learned to just, if I can, give 1 crutch instead of the 2 because the kids are more likely to use it. But I've had a lot of people tell me, please, Doc, don't give me crutches. I will not use them.
And then, of course,
Steven says, drink water. That's what they do in the Marines.
The magic cure to everything. Oh my God, my wrist. Drink water. You're like, but that's drink not water. Good. Look, the bone's sticking out. All right, fine.
Here's some ibuprofen. You'll be
here's
fine.
some crutches, and go there. No, listen, and to get back to your point too, as far as the pass catcher, man, as fantastic as it's been watching Alston, that dude is tall. First of all, and second of all, the fact that he did come to Army, even though he probably could have gone to God knows how many other schools, because they, Army, like, hey, come to Army as a receiver. You go, how about you give me crutches? We'll go with that.
Have that position?
Yeah. And then Monken's like, no, really, come to Army as a receiver. So he and him and of course Bryson Daly added that 1-2 punch, and I think it was a great combination together. So you're right though, to have Alston 266 receiving yards, and he is the leading receiver on that. Noah Short right behind him, 252. Casey Reynolds, 205. If I told you last year Army would have 3 receivers with over 200 yards of receiving, you would probably be like,
they had to rewrite the entire record book, didn't they?
Like 2 games into it, they're like the most receiving yards in Army history. You're like, what?
Wow, that's crazy.
But they still obviously rush a lot. So,
like you were saying, Alston's a dude, man. He's like a legit one of the only guys that you're not going to see him, but if you watch either of these 2 teams, he's one of the only guys, like you were saying, that like he could legit be a receiver on like an actual passing team. So that is a bit of a loss for the Black Knights, unfortunately.
I mean, lucky for them, Daly's rushed for almost 900 yards this season. So it's again, it's not that big of a huge loss when you've got a guy that has 106 attempts rushing. I'm sorry, he's got 188 carries on the year for 817 yards and 7 touchdowns on the ground. So, yeah, I mean, we know where this offense runs through. Even though it's the gun option, it still runs through the quarterback. So that's exactly what's going to happen this as well. Cody, your Navy guys, both of these teams coming in with 5-6 records, right? They're both evenly matched in that capacity, and Navy in their American Conference. So we're going to see they still are running a lot of the same triple option offense that you've seen, but Navy's been prone to pass more too in the past as well. This is not new for them. They've pulled back to pass a lot more than the Army, but yeah,
Navy's always passed a little bit more, I think, than Army has. And of course, Kenny Matalolo, or however you say his name, he got fired after last season. And so Brian Newberry is in as the new coach. So the offense has looked a little different this year, with some more passing, but it's a lot of running. Like you said, they've used 3 quarterbacks. They've kind of all got their different roles and what they're good at. The fullback, 2 fullbacks are the leading rushers on the team, followed by a quarterback. So that's very, very typical Navy. So pretty much going to run the ball a lot, but they can throw the ball a little bit here and there as well.
the thing about both of these teams, and especially when you look at their drive lengths and how long they hold the ball, possessions, you hear it every time. Every time you watch an Army game, every time you watch a Navy game, they always talk about how precious possessions really are because you don't get that many of them, so you got to make them count. Now, in the LSU game, they made every single one of them count against the Army. But again, it's because the Army has started to rely a little more on chunk plays through this gun option, right? They have pulled up to throw the ball. They are trying to break bigger runs, and they're not just trying to shove the ball straight up the middle for 2 or 3 yards and just do that 4 plays in a row and you're on to the next drive. They really are just trying to move the ball a little bit faster down the field, and their drive lengths have shortened because of it. So as we start to build, and unfortunately we don't get a lot of player props in this instance, so we're going to play a lot of lines, we're going to play a lot of other stuff, but I wish we could get player props. I know college football they don't like player props on college football. In fact, some states, I think they're downright illegal to give player props on college teams. So we're a little hamstrung there, but they're still fun to be had.
Yeah, we still found some good bets at least, so that's the positive part.
Yeah, I would say for sure, like if you were to give me a daily rushing yards, I would hammer that over up until like 300 yards. I don't even care.
I'd have about 3 guys on Navy. I'd hammer the over on their rushing yards. So.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's where whether it's, underdogs or prize picks or one of those guys, right? Those sometimes we'll offer them. They'll allow it to be
nothing yet. We were looking right before the show because this was open was to give out some underdog picks, but not yet. But they've got the game listed on the app, so I would imagine that as we get a little closer to kickoff, there will be some underdog stuff. So definitely make sure you're checking in on that.
Stay tuned. We'll get that to you. All right, the main event. While we're here, let's start giving out some of our picks. Cody and I picked 4. We picked 4 apiece to give you because obviously you're here for NASCAR most of the time, but today you're here for us to give you Army Navy stuff because, listen, it's near and dear to our hearts. We're going to give you plenty of NASCAR stuff this week. We just thought we'd have some fun with this, and hopefully you guys have some fun listening to three service members and former service members just reminisce and have some fun the way we always do with each other. So, Cody, we'll kick off the card with you. And Sebastian, here's what we'll have you do. We'll have you weigh in on how you think the pick goes and whether or not we're on the right track. So we'll get your opinion, unless you have a couple of picks on your own, and we'll definitely swing to you. Do you got some picks?
Yeah, I could do 4. They're pretty similar. I can make them 2 or I can make them 4. So you can let me know.
Let's go 4. We'll lead off with you.
All right, give us the first one.
All right, I will lead this off with the lowest odds I have right now. So I've got Army to win by 1-6 at plus 320. So like you were mentioning, there's not a whole lot of options we can go there. Yeah, like we talked about a lot, I think it's gonna be a close game. A lot of these games are. I think I obviously like Army to win this game. Now, whether it's by 3 or 4 or 2, I don't really want to mess with that. I'd rather take the winning band and give me the 1-6 at the nice juicy plus 320.
NASCAR odds here. Look at Doc's coming in firing with these NASCAR odds. Like,
he knows what he's getting himself into. I like it. Yeah, I think that's a really good play. I think no matter which way it goes, no matter which team wins, it's likely going to be a close game. Been a blowouts in the past. Obviously, we talked about 2019, 2020, but a lot of the times it comes down to the very end, and it's kind of a slugfest at the end. So kind of in the same thought, my first bet is largest lead to be under 11.5. This is at minus 120. Go back to last year, 4 points was the largest lead at any point in 2021. And like 2017 was the final score last year. So again, to your point of it being close, 2021, the score was 17-13. Biggest lead was 7. The 2 years before that, obviously, were the kind of blowout games. And so the lead was a little bigger. But like you said, I think the game is going to stay close. It's going to be close at the end. 11 points. I mean, that's an entire touchdown and a field goal. That's a lot of points, I think, for one of these teams to kind of get on a run and get up big. I don't really see that happening. I think it's going to be back and forth. And we'll probably talk about the total in a little bit, and maybe it goes over, but I think that it's going to stay close throughout the game. So largest lead under 11.5 at minus 120.
And really, this just goes back to both of what you guys are saying. When you look at the last couple of seasons, it's been decided by 3 points. I mean, Army beat Navy last year, 20-17. Navy beat Army in 2021, 17-13. So again, it's not, these have been very close games and obviously low scoring enough because drives are at a premium. And when you're 10, 13, 14 play drives, chewing 8 minutes off the clock, you're not going to put up a lot of points and you're not going to build up a gigantic lead. This is not LSU going up against Army. So I'm definitely there for it. So here's the thing. For me, I'm going to go along those same lines, but I'm also going to take an Army point total in this one. And I'm going to take Army over 14.5 points. This is at minus 107 over there on Bet Rivers. The one thing Army has done has scored points. I mean, you could look back a couple of years at Army and maybe 14.5 seems a little tough because, they could maybe score 14 and hold the other team to 7 and be good, right? I mean, a couple of drives, they get into the end zone, but this Army team is actually scoring. They've only not scored 14 points 4 times this season, believe it or not. In the last few games, right? 28 points against Coastal Carolina, 17 against Holy Cross, 25 against Air Force. Even when they lost against UMass, they still at least got 14. So that was very well could have happened. But of course, you talked about it too. They were without their quarterback for a few of those games as well, which makes a gigantic impact on this team because when you bring in a quarterback specifically to install a new system and that quarterback goes down, well, now you're in a lurch. So now you got to figure things out. So with him back, they've been able to get back over that 14-point threshold. 57-0 against Delaware State, 37-29 against UTSA, against San Antonio. They scored 16 even in a loss against Syracuse, 24 in that devastating loss to Boston College. So, they've been able to still do it even in a losing effort. And the way these guys have been able to score this season is encouraging. So I think 14.5 is a little bit low of a number. So I know it's juiced a little bit. It's minus 107, which for you NASCAR fans, you're like, why would I take a 107? But just know that this is football. Minus 107 for 14.5 is not a bad deal.
Yeah, I think that's a good bet too. I think that, again, I think there's going to be some points in this game. I'm leaning towards the over a little bit. And so I think that even though Navy's going to win the game, Army can still get over the 14.5. So I do like the bet.
I think you're half right on that.
No, I like both, honestly. I can't believe they're hanging that largest lead under 11.5. I can't even believe the books are throwing that up. I mean, like you talked about, I could see potentially 10 and then the other team gets back within it, but like still even 10 is like, I mean, that's like 24 in any other game. But yeah, and no, I think, with where I'm at over under, I don't really have an official play on it because I think I'm kind of waiting to see if it gets to 27. I think 27 is a key enough number for me. There's been a lot of games that have ended at that total just in the history of this game rivalry. So if it does keep getting bet down just because everyone's used to the Service Academy unders, I would jump on it once it gets to 27 if it does. But for now, I'm going to lay off the side of it because it's just one of those swings where I'm almost like, am I hoping for there to be points or do I actually think there's going to be points from a viewing pleasure?
I think we're all hoping there'll be a few points.
Yes. What do you got next for us, Doc?
All right. Yeah. So, like I said, it's going to be a little bit similar. So a little bit shorter of an explanation here, but, so we're going to go, I did the Army winning band to 1-6. I'm going to cover my CYA a little bit and go, Army to win by 7-12, just in the situation where, I think that there's what could be 17-10, a Navy's trying to drive down to get in the end zone at the end. They don't obviously get in and whatever. So, very similar play that's at plus 380. I think obviously you can play both. And, if obviously one of them hits, you're kind of good there. Although I probably like the plus 320 a little bit better, it would suck for Army to win by 7 and to get bit there a little bit. So just a little CYA because the juice or the odds are nice enough. Give me Army to win by 7-12 at plus 380.
Oh, beautifully done. This is like betting the group wins in NASCAR, like betting the top manufacturer where you get the one guy because you're pretty sure it's going to be him. But let's do the cover your own ass with this other guy and you're getting both good odds. So love that. Love the play. I don't think Army's going to win by 7-12. Of course, you're probably going to lose both of these, but the thought is great. The betting process is wonderful. So I appreciate that part of it. For me, I'm going to go with the fullback, Alex Texa, I think is how you say his name, to score 2 touchdowns or more, 33-1. You think you're going to come to the NASCAR show and not get some big numbers. Of course, we're going all out for it. He is the fullback. He's the leading rusher on this team, 724 rush yards this season. He's got 5 touchdowns. He's averaging 6.2 yards a carry. He does have a 2-touchdown game against North Texas earlier this season. Over the last couple of games, he's got 5 catches as well. So not just can he get in on the ground, but potentially through the air also. His nickname is the A-Train. He's a cyber ops major which I think is pretty cool. Wants to be in the CIA when he gets out. So he's a fullback for Navy, wants to be in the CIA. I mean, how much better can it get? He's also All-American lacrosse player in high school. So dude's a badass. He's going to be doing some rumbling and running. I think he can find the end zone twice. I think at 33-1 for the guy that's a leading rusher on a team that mostly rushes and runs the option. I think that he's a great play. So Alex Tezka, 2 touchdowns at 33-1.
That's a hell of a bet. That's wow. I can't believe some of these numbers are just, they don't make sense, right? But maybe they're just assuming there won't be more than 2 touchdowns on one team. Who knows? But yeah, that's not bad. 33-1.
Justin, old fashioned football here, real quick, chimed in. What do you think of 1+ rushing touchdown to be scored each quarter, plus 600?
Is that one on each team, or is that just one between the 2 teams? Because if it's one between the 2 teams, then we're not. Yeah, no.
Well, I'm guessing it's one between the 2 teams. So either Army or Navy each quarter is how I'm. You can clarify, Justin, but that's what I'm guessing. So just over the course of the 4 quarters, a touchdown scored in each by either team would be my guess. Yeah, just one between the 2, he says. So it is that. Man, that's at 6-1. Might be worth a little sprinkle. I think that rushing touchdowns are probably going to be a bulk of the touchdowns scored. If you think there's going to be some points thrown out, might not be a bad idea.
Well, and I agree with that too, because again, most of these scores do come by way of the ground game. You talk about passing touchdowns; it's not even really that big of a deal for these. Daly has 6 rather. Bryson Daly has 6 touchdowns, passing touchdowns on the entire season. So it's not something he's doing with a lot of frequency. On the flip side, Army has had 19 rushing touchdowns. So when they score, they mainly score from the ground. So that's for sure. And then as far as Navy is concerned, it's sort of the same type of thing, where you look at their quarterbacks. They've got 9 touchdowns through the air all season long, but 16 on the ground. So I think if you're going to sprinkle something on a 6-1 like that, I think that's a good idea.
And Steven, 3+ field goals at 4-1. Is that just in the game? Because yes, please.
Yeah, I think it is.
That sounds great.
Yeah, wow. Yeah. I mean, shit.
Yes, definitely place that one. Yeah. Great call. Yeah, let everybody know what book that's on too, because that's wonderful.
All right, so I'll move on to mine. And since I already think Army's going to win, I'm going to go ahead and give them the honor of the first score and to win at plus 135 from our friends over at Bet Rivers. I'll tell you this, the last 3 games that Navy has lost, the opposing team has scored first. So I'm going to go ahead and lean on that as one of my biggest handicaps, because again, if I already think Army's going to win, and when Navy loses, the other team usually ends up scoring first in that loss, which kind of, because we talk about these rushing teams, right? It's very difficult to kind of play from behind because you've already put yourself down a possession, right? And if you know you're not getting the ball back in the second half, that even makes it tougher. So it's just a matter of playing catch up for either one of these teams is a very difficult proposition. I also will say that over the last couple of games that the Army has won, in fact, the last 3 games in their 3-game winning streak, Army has scored first in that contest as well. So we're kind of on 2 different trajectories here, where Army has won the last 3 games and they've scored first. Navy, they haven't lost the last 3 games, but in the last 3 games that they have ended up losing, they were the not the first ones to score. So they've lost 3 of 5 in that. So give me Army to score first, and then most importantly to win at plus 135.
Well, all the bets we give out can't be winners, so that's okay, Rob. Somebody can fall on that sword.
Well, if you don't like that, you're definitely not going to like my next 2.
Let's hear it. What do you got next for us, Doug?
Yeah, so I mean, sticking with the theme, clearly I think one side is better for on the field and off. So I'm going to go in the correct score market. I'm going to go Army 17, Navy 10 at 55-1. So I think, one, this is a very common store kind of within the history, right? That puts you right at that 27 number. It's a situation where, like I mentioned, I think we could have a game where if, one team's up by 7 and they're driving, Navy's got to drive down to try to score a touchdown. Field goals kind of go out of the way. Like you guys talked about, possessions are at a premium as well. So field goals, although early in the game, they may be important. Later on, we see a lot of going for it on fourth down. That's very classic of an Army-Navy game. Fourth and short, they're going to go for it. So I think this puts you in a situation where, each team maybe kicks a field goal, get a couple touchdowns. And, give me Army 17, Navy 10 at plus 5,500.
I was waiting for Cody because look at
I was trying to look because I found, what'd you get it at? 55 plus 55-1?
Yeah, 55-1.
Then you're good. Because I found a different place that had some crazy odds. I've got a similar correct score coming up in the future here. And I found it at like 50-1 on one book, and then it's like 111 on another book. So I was just double checking. Unfortunately, not better odds. That's okay. Since Army's going to lose, it won't hit. But I do love the correct, the correct score. This is a great way to get in on this game. Big number, 55-1. We like big bets like that here on the NASCAR pod. So I do like that part of it. Unfortunately, it won't hit since Army's not going to win, but that's okay. I am going to go to the first touchdown market. I'm going to split this up, much like the guys do over on the big show. I'm going to split mine into thirds here. Already talked about Alex Texza to score 2 touchdowns. I think he could also get the first touchdown of the game. This is 11-1. Already talked about him a little bit. Also going to go with Xavier Arline. Like you mentioned, he is the rushing quarterback that they have, kind of the third of the 3 quarterbacks, but he runs a lot, and he has been pretty good. His master is in quantum economics, which sounds very, very smart. He's from Long Island, New York. Last year in this game, he was 1-for-1 passing for a 25-yard touchdown. He also had 28 rushing attempts in this game last year, 102 yards, including a 28-yard run for his biggest one. 3 of the last 4 games, he's got over 94 yards passing. So not only can he run, he can pass as well. And then in 5 games, he's got 251 rushing yards, 2 touchdowns. So I think he could find his way on the ground into the end zone. 18-1. I think we're going to see quite a bit of him in this game, much like we did last year. 28 rushing attempts is obviously there was a lot of rushing attempts by Navy, of course, but that is a lot of rushing attempts just in general. So I'm going to take him as well. And then also 40-1, no touchdown. 2020, this happened most recently. That's only a couple of seasons ago. The 15-0 win by Army, 5 field goals, no touchdowns. Come on, this is as my other football teams, Nebraska fan, the Nebraska-Iowa game recently. I'm a Patriots fan. We've got the Patriots-Steelers game tomorrow night. Maybe this will probably be the highest scoring of all of them, which is a little surprising, but maybe it's not. Maybe there's no touchdowns scored. The teams just trade some field goals. I think a 40-1, it's worth a little sprinkle.
No, I'm not. No, none of this is going to happen. No. I mean, Navy may not score a touchdown. That much I can give you, but no touchdown in the game, and then the other 2 are done. There's not going to. No, listen. I just looked up the weather for Foxborough. There is a beautiful sun. It's going to be 52 degrees in Foxborough. Nice. Just a nice, gorgeous day there for this game. That snowed out, beautiful game of a couple of seasons ago. We're a little removed from that. God, what a go! And
that was the snow game, wasn't it?
Yeah, and Army was wearing white that day. That was the beautiful part of it. So
they played the camo perfectly.
Yeah,
duh. Come on now. So yeah, I love that as well. But I mean, whatever. For my touchdown prop, I'm going to go to a guy that's actually going to score, in my opinion, and that is Jacoby Buchanan. Here's the thing about Jacoby, right? It's sort of been, you came into the season hoping Jacoby would do a little bit better than he's done overall in the season. The dude's a bruiser. I don't even want to say the same thing that announcers say all the time, but they always talk about his streak of positive runs. This dude's on like a colossal streak of never losing a single yard during a run. He's always had positive yards. Every time he touches the ball, he gains at least 1 yard. But this year, it's pretty much been that. I mean, 47 carries, 160 yards. He's only averaging 3.4 yards per carry. But he does have 3 touchdowns, which when your quarterback has 7 and you are the next leading running back or next leading touchdown scorer with 3, it's kind of a big deal. And Jacoby Buchanan is clutch in these very, very short situations. So you give him a carry on goal to go, then he is 1000% the guy you go to because he never loses a yard. So if it's 3rd and 1 from the goal line, if it's 2nd and 1 from the goal line, 9 times out of 10, Jacoby's getting that carry. So I like the number, especially it's at 7-1 over on Bet Rivers for him to score an anytime touchdown. This is what I'm talking about. Like for me, if it were first touchdown, I may be like, nah, maybe not. But like anytime touchdown for Jacoby Buchanan.
Our line gets the first touchdown, and then he scores a touchdown as well, and we both cash. See how that works, Rob?
Okay, but only if that's the only one that our line scores, and then we're good. So,
got a couple more bets in the chat too. Steven, like a good Marine out here doing some recon. 1+ field goal for each quarter, 13-1. That's not bad. Both teams to score every quarter, 40-1. That's the opposite of no touchdowns, but really, actually, you could play all these. So you play one field goal each quarter. They both score each quarter, and then also no touchdown hits. That's a great day.
Talk about a payout there.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe they just trade field goal jabs back and forth and each boot one every quarter. It's a great possibility. Old Fashioned Football says each team to have 1 touchdown, 1 field goal each half. 60-1. Let's go higher scoring, but not too high. Kickers need time too. So some decent options from the chat there as well.
And that's the thing about these kickers too. They're not really that bad. You would expect these because we haven't really even talked about, obviously, if you're new, if you're NASCAR and you haven't necessarily paid attention to Service Academy teams in general, you got to figure these guys are all going to be officers in the United States military service. So they cannot be 360-pound bruisers, right? These guys have to at least still pass some sort of weight. I mean, they get a little leeway because they are out there, but they've got to stick to the physical regimen of being a cadet, right? Either a midshipman or a cadet. They've still got to pass height, weight. They've still got to fit within the Army and Navy standards. So these guys, they cannot be the gigantic linemen that you see. So a lot of times it leads to getting pushed around. And that's why they don't really have the quarterback that they usually have, because more often than not, they're trying to recruit for a specific, they're trying to recruit to be officers in the branch that they're in, not to be football players. Now, of course, modern times have sort of lent themselves to be able to be drafted early, be released from their service a little early. So that's starting to shift a little more. And I'm curious to see a little bit down the road if that means that maybe this is fudged a little bit for a guy, because all 3 of us know, right? I mean, height and weight standards, they're not very generous in the military. So a lot of these linemen out there, a lot of these linebackers out there, they look the way they look for a reason. And yeah, some of these big SEC schools can push you around, but that's because you're not being groomed to be a lineman for, the NFL.
I still get the phone calls, Rod, from the recruiters, and they're like, well, what do you think about, coming back and being in the Navy Reserve? And I always just ask if they accept fat guys. And then that's pretty much the end of the conversation.
Oh, man.
But we can put you on remedial PT, buddy. You're good.
Yeah, no thanks.
All right. Well, let's say goodnight to Justin. Justin, good night. He said this old man's starting to doze.
It's all right.
All 3 for your service.
Yeah, make sure you check out Old Fashioned Football too. They got their start-sit show tomorrow. That'll be a good one. Last week before the fantasy playoffs in most places. I've got a couple leagues even started the fantasy playoffs this week, so exciting stuff.
Beautiful. All right, Sebastian, one more from you as we go for our last round of bets.
All right. Probably starting to notice a theme here. I'm sticking with the correct score prop bet here. Give me Army 17, Navy 13 at 70-1. Honestly, when I look at this game, I think this is, obviously we're predicting something here, so it's nothing's exact, but this is kind of where I see it at. I see a close game. I see a situation where, it pops over the total a little bit. That puts you at 30. And again, Navy's in a situation where they try to come down and get the W. And as usual, they come up a little bit short, and that's okay. We hold the trophy and everything goes well. But no, it's just a situation where I really think that, Army is able to score some points, but it's going to be really hard for these teams to separate a lot. I like the game to be somewhat close, somewhere in that, probably I'd say 1 to 7 point range. So yeah, that's where I'm going to go with. I'm going to go Army 17, Navy 13 at 70-1.
At 110-1. If you go to the blue that starts with an F and has a D in it as well. I don't know. They've got some crazy. Yeah, 110-1. So you change your official play. It's 110-1. That's But again, mine's we'll just get
you're salivating because you want that, and it's gonna happen.
No, I've got a similar one. So much like I do in the NASCAR show in general, I have filled this box up with a lot of bets, so I'm gonna rattle them all off. Rod loves when I do this, but I got to take advantage of all the space in the box that I can. Navy money line plus 130. Navy has won 16 of the last 22 of these games. At one point, they had won 14 in a row. They're going to get back to the old ways. They're going to win this game. Also, you can take them plus 3, minus 115. Might as well get in on both ways. It's going to be a close game no matter what I think. So if they do lose, I think they could lose by less than 3. So get the plus 3. So money line plus 130, plus 3, minus 115. Also have Navy to score first and win the game, plus 188 over on Bet Rivers. I like that. Rod made the point earlier. If the other team scores first, they tend to lose. When they score first with this airline touchdown, and then they're going to go, and on and win the game, plus 188. And then my correct score prediction is Navy 16, Army 13, and that is also 110-1. So that is my version of the correct score prediction.
God, it's gonna be sad when none of these hit, Cody. I'm gonna hate it for you.
I'm gonna hate it for you when none of yours hit. Yeah, it will be. It will be very sad, but only one of us can win in this scenario.
Well,
even though we all win.
I told you that. Yeah, that's true too. When we all get up and do it. So when Army does win, I love that that Bet Rivers allows you to sort of tease your own.
Oh, that little slider they have is just beautiful. You can just slide it right to whatever you want. Love it.
Well, I slid it right up to 6.5 for the Army. So I'm going to take Army minus 6.5 on the spread. This is a plus 143. And honestly, again, this is going to be a very close game, but I can see Army being able to win by a touchdown. Yes, it hasn't happened in a couple of years, but I also know that the potential is there for Army to be able to win by at least a touchdown. And if that means that, it's a 14-14 tie heading into the final drive and Army has to take it all the way down and score a touchdown to win the game, and there's your 6.5 right there. They win by one touchdown. Or, if it's like, I don't know, that's my scenario where they've got to come back. Maybe it's 14-14 and they got to come down for a 21-14 win to finish it off. So I like kind of sliding this up to minus 6.5 to give me some more value on this initial, what is it, minus 107, I said, on the minus 3. So if I think they can win by a field goal, I think they can win by a touchdown. So I'll take the plus money on this one. So give me Army minus 6.5 at plus 143.
I'm really shocked that that both of you guys' bets went the Army way and mine went the Navy way. Who could have seen this coming?
A single person that's tuned in tonight at all. I'm going to make this interesting. Here's a side wager that I'm coming up with live right now.
All right.
So, when Army wins, I'm making Cody sing the alma mater.
Oh, jeez. Nobody wants to hear me sing, so it's a good thing Navy's going to win.
Boy.
If
Navy accidentally pulls off some sort of craziness.
I mean, is this win or is it cover the spread? Is this a betting show or is this not a betting show, Rod? You got to give me the points, right?
Oh my God, do I have to give you the point? No,
we're here to bet. We're not. I mean, they're going to win anyways. Navy will.
It sounds like a not so confident rebuttal.
That's what I'm saying. Like, are you?
Hey, you were talking about covering your ass earlier, Doc. That's what I'm doing.
Fine. I will give you the 3.
All right.
How's that?
That's
Three.
good. Nice.
3.
I like
And then you'll sing.
I will sing the Navy. I will sing the Navy hymn if the Navy decides to like fire its guns. And
Well, if you're listening to this right now, better be rooting for Navy because Rod is the musician. He is the singer guy. Me, no musical talent over here, so you do not want to hear that.
yeah, I'm not singing Anchors Away. I'm actually singing the Navy hymn. So
Okay.
you're not singing the Army song. You're singing the actual. So
All right. It's a deal.
or maybe we just do it the way they always do it, and we both sing it, and I just sing last when Army wins.
Oh, I like the bet though. I like the bet. Have some skin in it.
Good. Yeah, we have to. So I like it.
Good. And even still, we'll do it on the next episode of the NASCAR Gambling Podcast to lead it off.
Oh,
That'll be even before the ad reads. We'll just lead it straight off with having to sing.
Get everybody to tune out right from the start.
Tell you, wake the audience up. Let them know what it's about right now. We're gonna lay it all on the table, baby.
All right. So that is the bets. I'm not going to recap them this time. You go back and listen if you really want to have them. I know normally on NASCAR Gambling Podcast, I'll recap them, but you guys can have some fun. Listen to it again if you really need to catch the bets. But I just want to take a couple of seconds before we close this. Obviously, we talk about the meaning behind this game and why it's important. And I know that the broadcast loves to belabor the point. For us veterans and for us who are still even serving to this day, I mean, we know it's important, but we also know that they tend to exaggerate it for ratings. It's not necessarily always as blown up as they make it. But I will say from a personal standpoint that I have very much been proud to serve. I continue to be proud to serve. I know that every time I put that uniform on, that I feel just exactly where I need to be. And for me, most of you guys know that I do perform military honors. So I tend to play taps at military funerals every day for the most part. And there's nothing more, I don't want to say satisfying because it sounds a little bit trite, but there's really nothing more fulfilling, I suppose, than knowing that you are part of something bigger and that a game like this also highlights that sports is combative by nature, right? I mean, there's always that us versus them. It's two teams pitting against each other, and I always use war as an example of it, right? They're fighting, they're battling, they're doing it, but for us, we've seen the other side of that, the real side of that, and it's just a matter of to know that the game represents this, but we can take it outside of that game and still experience just what it means to be in the service. I think that's why I've really loved this game from the last few standpoints, especially when I got out. I guess I sort of hit home what Steve said here. The real teamwork starts in the trenches, which 100% does, right? I mean, I would be thrilled to serve alongside you, Cody, obviously alongside you, because we would probably do it before Cody, but I've served with all. I've served with Marines, Navy, Coast Guard, Air Force, not Space Force yet. I've seen one in the wild, but I've never served next. But yeah, I mean, again, it doesn't matter what uniform we put on at the end of the day. We're all still working together.
Yeah, that's very well said. I mean, really, it's hard to top that. I echo everything you said. And yeah, I've been out for a while now, but very proud of my time in the service and having that opportunity and getting to do that. It was a good time. And like you said, it's the name, you get your name on the front of your right chest there, but the name on the left for everybody says the same thing for the most part. It starts with the United States, and that's what matters. Again, we're we'll battle it out on the field, be enemies for a couple hours while they play the football game, and then after that, it's back to being on the same team and moving forward. So it's awesome. I love so much that this game stands alone. It's kind of the game this weekend. It gets its own thing. Everybody's watching it. Everybody enjoys it. The rivalry is so much fun. This has been a blast. This is definitely going to have to be a yearly show that we do because this has been a really good time, and I'm excited for Navy to win on Saturday.
No, yeah. Yeah, gentlemen, obviously as the more senior and veteran individuals in the room, you guys obviously you said it well, and I think you guys can say it to a better effect. As a nice green LT, I will throw in my 2 cents here. I think one of the things it highlights and helps remind us is that just that competitive spirit, that winning matters. I think in the military, more so than the way society's going. I think winning matters, right? Especially when lives are at the line. So it does help that there is that competitive nature. But as you guys said, we're all one team, we're all one country, and I think that's what we're fighting for. And as someone who's newer, I joined. I'm just at my 2-year mark, and hopefully for many more. I think this game really helps to show the pageantry and to just show like someone. I didn't have any military family growing up. Situation where I had that kind of call to service, and a couple different reasons, but one of them was through this game. I love football. I've loved football ever since I've been a little kid, and I love the Army Navy game, and I love the stories, and I love hearing the history, and I love hearing what it means to these men and women and these individuals who have served. So I absolutely love this game. I look forward to it every year. It means a little bit something different now wearing the uniform, but as these gentlemen said, it's going to be a hell of a game. But after that, I just hope, we have our thoughts and prayers out for those individuals on the field who are going to be joining our ranks. And let's go America. It's always go Army, beat Navy for a little bit, but it's always at the end of the day, go America. So yeah, that's it for me.
We might be the veteran guys, but you outrank us both. So
I was about to say,
There's
sir,
that.
it's if I see you in uniform, it's always that crisp salute. Doesn't matter how long we've known each other, but and what I love the most too is that when, especially for the Army, when they put on the different unit patches, I've actually worn several of those unit patches that they end up putting on there, whether it's the big fantastical Indian that makes up the 2ID patch, or the squawking chicken of the 101st or 10th Mountain Division. Like all those patches I've proudly worn. And so when I see that emblem on the helmet, when I see it on the uniform, it kind of hits a little bit different, because I too have worn that same patch. And I know, that a lot of these cadets that are going to go out into the field and be part of those units as well, I can say that I've served in that same unit. And it's a crazy different feeling to know when you're watching these games that, you identify with that player on the field. And like you said too, the teamwork, and I love what Steven says too. It says no NFL team can compare to a locker room full of guys that will literally die for each other. And granted, we haven't necessarily had that in a few years. Thankfully, it's still out there and people are still deploying. But when you listen to the banter of individual service, and that's why a lot of folks, if you have never served, like if we pick on the Coast Guard knows it's coming. They know it's coming. Like, and they'll hit it right back at us. They'll be like, oh, that's fine. We'll go ahead and enjoy our cable television on our ships and our fantastical 3-course meals that come in our chow halls. Because let's face it, kids, Coast Guard's got some fantastic chow hall food, man.
That's the sacrifice they make. Them in the Air Force, they get made fun of, but they get that extra per diem for living conditions, and they get that. The uniforms too, always super cool. The Army this year, they're wearing the dog face uniforms to pay tribute to the 3rd Infantry Division and their role in the Iraq War. So that's pretty cool. Navy is wearing the silent service uniforms to pay tribute to the submariners. So both, again, sweet. These uniforms are always so freaking cool. It's so cool. They always pick like a different part to represent and kind of highlight in this game, which is very awesome. So I did want to mention that because pretty sweet looking.
Sir, did you get your pinks and greens?
Yes. Yeah. I actually just wore them. We had our holiday ball last weekend. So yeah, just dusted them things off. So yeah.
I have not gotten those. That's the one uniform that's escaped me so far. I'm supposed to be on order, but National Guard, we're going to get everything last. There's no way I'm getting anything.
Yeah, they're even for us when we had to have them. Yeah, that's a pretty penny right there, but it's nice. You look good.
LT's got to pay for everything. So even that ball, you had to buy everything for that ball, I'm sure. Yeah. So Cody, what's the last thing you wore? What's the last uniform you wore?
Yeah, so I was in the Navy Seabees, which is the construction division for the Navy. So I like to tell people I wasn't in the boat Navy, never on a ship. It's much closer to a Marine than I was actually in the Navy. But yeah, we wore the digital. Well, it's when I was first in, we wore just the regular old Army camo. Then it kind of switched to the digital. So, but yeah, it was mostly the green digital camo. We wore a little bit of blue digi camo depending on situations. We were kind of depending, if you're with Big Navy, you wore the blue stuff. If you were on your own, you wore the green stuff. Then we had the desert camo stuff for when we were over in Afghanistan as well. And then obviously dust off the dress whites, the dress blues here and there. I still have all of those. They don't fit because that was a lot of pounds ago. But I've got the hat that I could put on here, so that's great.
Beautiful. Yeah, I've gone from BDUs when I joined in the early 90s to when I came back in, they were in ACUs. Now I'm in OCPs. Went from those disgusting greens to just when they just started switching off to the blues for good. Now, like I said, hopefully I'll get my my pinks and greens. But yeah, I've seen the evolution of the Army uniform, and like you, I've got a lot of them. Some of them I don't fit because that was a few pounds ago too. 18-year-old me is, I mean, I may look the same, but I don't weigh the same anymore. So that's for sure.
Lot of pounds ago, but yeah, I've got even I wasn't in that long, but just did my 4 years and got out. But we had our fair share of different uniforms to wear at different times for sure.
I was stationed with Marines and Navy back in the day, and in Norfolk, so I saw the Seabees. That was like their thing. So I saw the Seabees, and then the Navy SEALs actually trained on that post as well. And what was crazy about that was we would run our PT in the morning, and we'd run by the beach, and we'd see these dudes like carrying gigantic logs down the beach, and they were like, "Oh yeah, those are the Navy SEALs." And here I am, like barely in, like I'm just running around with my instrument going, yeah, okay, that's cool. I'm not even worried about that. These guys are, yeah.
Yeah,
And then later on,
Steven says 21 years too. Hoorah. Thank you again,
good job.
Steven.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can
but yeah, it's yeah, dude, the SEALs, we worked with them a decent amount, kind of building some stuff for them and whatnot. And yeah, our PT line smelled like whiskey. That was coming out of everybody's pores from sweating it out, and their PT line was a little different.
Yeah. One last story, and then I'll just go ahead and we'll wrap this up because all of us could sit here and talk.
Oh yeah, this might be another show.
Stories for days. I remember once. I'm in the military band. I'm a musician in the band, which means we're hardcore, but we were hardcore enough to be smart enough to not join anything else but the band. So, as such, we're kind of viewed as not necessarily the most hua of all Army soldiers. So, we're right above cooks, which thankfully, we're there. And sorry, sir, but medics, we're right above them. And so, honestly, I went one day to qualify with the special forces, qualify our weapons. And so I show up. I'm in my entire gear because that's what we do in the band. We overcompensate for the fact that we're not soldiers. So we're in everything, right? We've got our helmet, we've got our vest, we've got all this stuff, right? I get on the bus, and these dudes, like, first of all, they're in beards. They've got like a t-shirt on and like half of their BDU pants. And I'm like, I look like the nerd just getting on a bus, like about to get my ass kicked.
Rod's like pushing his glasses up.
Is this the right bus? And they're like, first of all, it's just like a record scratch. And I get on and I just sit down. Right. And this is young little E5 me. And so we get to the range, and so I get off, and I'm like over here, carrying my rifle like this. These guys got it all on their back like they're hunting deer. They're like, oh, okay, let's go. So they get out to the range, and the first thing they do is they grab my helmet, right? And he's like, take this shit off. And he threw the helmet across. He's like, take this shit off. And he grabs my thing and rips it off. And he's like, get your soft cap. So I put my soft cap on. He goes, see that? And I was like, yeah. He goes, shoot that shit. And I was like, this is not how we run our ranges. I I didn't want to argue with him, so I got down and I started shooting. He was like, "All right, good. Now don't stop until you're done." And I was like, "Okay."
Hell yeah.
Best range I was ever on, man. I loved it. I wish I could have done that every time.
That's awesome.
Yeah, don't let range ops hear that one. Yeah.
Hey, good luck tracking him down, first of all. Second of all, good luck telling them they're wrong. Those special forces guys, they didn't care.
They don't listen to nobody.
I love it. All right. Well, listen, we'll go ahead and wrap this up. Like I said, you could probably sit here and listen to us talk about this kind of stuff all day long. We got stories for days. But that's for a different podcast. Thank you very much to our own Doc Sebastian for joining us on the show. As always, your injury knowledge is second to none.
Oh, must follow on X. I'm subscribed to the tweets. They always pop up. I don't know if you know this. I'm in like 70 fantasy leagues, so I've got a lot of injury watching all the time. So yes, your tweets are so unsubscribe. I get a lot of my injury info and should I play this guy? Should we not trust the injury? How long are we looking for somebody to be out? I rely on you for a lot of it. So greatly appreciated. You're helping me do well in some fantasy leagues, at least.
Yeah, no, gentlemen, it was blast. Yeah, like you said, I hope I'm invited back next year. But yeah, no, I mean, hey, it's a small token I will give for gentlemen and women all over the world like you guys who, really did the hard work. I'll always say, our enlisted personnel are the true heroes there. So as any good officer should, I'm just doing it for my soldiers there. So I appreciate you guys. Go Army, beat Navy. And that's the last thing I'll say.
Beautiful stuff. Cody, I'll give you a last word, I suppose, before you have to sing for us next week.
Yeah. Make sure you tune in next week for Rod's song. It's going to be wonderful. You can follow me on the X at Husker_Zeeb. Find all my work over there. Got Underdog defensive plays article coming out. That'll be out Saturday. So read up on that while you're watching Navy kick some ass. And yeah, we'll be back with more NASCAR stuff later this week, next week, all throughout the off season. And go Navy, beat Army.
Yeah, these one-offs are fun. I hope you guys bear with us with this one. We needed to do it. This is, I mean, as veterans, as people who serve, I feel like it's our right to give you this episode, even though it's not NASCAR. So follow me on X, RJ Villagomez. Link in the bio to everything I got going on. From the halls of Montezuma to the shores of Tripoli, we will fight our country's battles. But that's not what we're singing, Steven. We're going to be singing. Cody's going to be singing at the top of his lungs. The name. So practice. All right.
Yeah. Go ahead and get your practice in over the weekend, Rod.
Indeed. Well, we'll be coming back with more NASCAR for you tomorrow. So enjoy that. There's some Daytona 500 head-to-head matchups that we'll break down. And then we've just got a shit ton more for you. There's just going to be so many more odds to pass out. So that's going to be a lot of fun. All right. That'll do it for tonight. Until next time. Go Army!
Go Navy!
See you next time. Let it ride!
So you'll see your shadow.